It's kind of weird, but it's my thing. Step on me, Trav.
No, I don't want to.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jonesing for Sports podcast. March Madness is in full swing, and true to form, it's been as unpredictable as always. So we'll be dissecting that madness. You know who else has been a little bit unpredictable, a little bit surprising? The Detroit Lions in their offseason. So we'll be jumping into some of what's been happening with them as well. So don't go anywhere, because you'd miss all this amazing content. So we're going to get into that right now. But before we cover those topics, we got a couple things that we should talk about first. One of those being a juicy shower thought.
Oh, good.
Being March Madness, you know, we think of sleeper picks, Sweet 16, of course, the Final Four. I'm curious, what would be the Final Four of TV shows for you guys? What TV shows would make the Final Four in your bracket of TV show champions?
I want to go last because I have four that I want to get out, and I'm hoping you guys cover some of them so I can get as much representation as possible.
Brandon, you told me ahead of time that you had four picks for this. So now I'm really nervous because you said you even had two for me. I'm really nervous that I didn't choose right.
I'm terrified for you.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a little torn too because
Trav, you go.
there's
I'll drive down there.
there's two that I feel like need to be on this, but there's one that I really want to be in my Final Four.
Travis, we're not on the same
and
page.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy.
The two that need to be on.
Brandon's going last, and we're gonna pick things that he doesn't want on the list.
Yeah.
And he's gonna
Then I gotta
really
put the ones
regret
that
going
have
last.
to.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun because
So
if we get
maybe
to see.
you should go first, Brandon.
No. I want to put that on Brandon.
I already committed.
All right. Then I'm gonna go with my third seed. I just really wanted to make the Final Four.
You're starting with the third seed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the two
Bold
I think are
strategy, Cotton.
guaranteed. But it's the one I want on. Because it's How I Met Your Mother.
Oh,
I have such a good relationship with that show. I've rewatched it a lot.
Oh, Brandon's dead.
And it's been re-popping up, like just clips of it here and there for me. And it just hits still. It's still such a good show. So I'm going more, everything in my head was kind of sitcom-y. So
I can't wait to hear what 1 and 2 are. Almost as much as I can't wait
the
to see
one and
how
two that
much
should have been listed.
that which probably won't get listed.
No, they're dead now.
I'm going a different direction as well, and I don't think. I don't know what Brandon's going to think. I really have no idea, so I can't wait.
There's two correct answers for you, Cody.
For me, let's see how well I know myself. So for me, when I think top four,
When you think
I'm not
perfect TV show,
yeah, you think perfect. You think maybe
I got him.
longevity.
yeah, you did get
You
it.
think like staying power. You think something that's kind of, timeless. Something that
Maybe not.
you can just go back to and it just delivers. It hits so right. And, it is beautiful. It's actiony.
Yep.
It is so much fun. The Avatar Last Airbender TV show.
walk
it's
into my web, you
100%.
little fly.
100% needs to be in any top four. It
Yes.
is the best cartoon of all time. It is a gateway for some people into anime. For others, it's just the perfect childhood TV show. It's got love. It's got action, adventure, forgiveness, betrayal, loss, heartbreak. Every single gut-wrenching and achingly human emotion that you can find in good story, you find in Avatar. And it does it oh so beautifully.
I love you, Cody. I will not be coming down to your house tonight for you.
I saved us.
No,
No,
I
you
said
didn't.
for you.
Oh. Ooh.
You're safe. So
Keep
at
my
least
door
one of my
closed tonight.
four, at least one of my four will be represented, or at least two of my four, I guess now. So thank you, Cody. I guess I will put forth the one that Travis should have, and then hope that another one we can come to consensus on. The best TV show that must be represented, the number one overall seed is The Office, for obvious reasons. I don't even have to get into it. It's just the best TV show of all time. So I think for the fourth seed, we all put forth a contender.
Yeah.
and then we'll come together and choose the one that we think best represents that last seed.
Okay, fair enough. Trav, can we hear your 2 ideas, your 1 and 2 seeds?
Trav, can we hear your thoughts on the finale of How I Met Your Mother? Or the last season?
Yeah, Travis's 1 seed was actually Game of Thrones. He doesn't really care how a TV series ends.
Game of Thrones was a very good show. The ending of Game of Thrones was not as bad as people give it credit, but it was not good compared to the whole show. It did let us down a bit.
I didn't watch Game of Thrones. Which has the worst finish? Game of Thrones or How I Met Your Mother?
The fans are gonna hate that I don't say Game of Thrones because everyone hated that. But How I Met Your Mother.
That was your first nomination.
There's so much more to it than the finale. I don't even want to hear your arguments because it's easy to argue it because the whole story is him talking about how he's going to meet his mother, and then he meets his mother, and it's kind of ishy. So we move on. But you know what?
What's like the, what's the ending message of that?
It was more than the ending, though. It's the story of all these people, and every episode is so good. All the characters are so good. Just like New Girl, the worst character is probably the main character in Ted. For a lot of people, what's her face?
Ted and Lily.
Lily is by far the worst
Lily.
character.
It's not even close.
Ted actually doesn't bother me as much as a lot of other people, but I'm going to do this. I'm willing to concede that maybe that's not a top 4. And
that's fine. It's a great show.
They could have had a Cinderella.
They had a Cinderella run.
That's been a current one for me. Like, it's jumped back into the running for me. If you guys are open to it, I will swap it out.
I don't think, no, that's not the way it works.
No,
they had a dream
win
run.
Your games, yeah. You can never take that banner away.
All right.
Sister Jean is waving her flag proudly for How I Met Your Mother. They have sneaked in.
Don't put Sister Jean with them.
Well, they're a 9 seed. They're, in my opinion, they shouldn't be there, but they did. That's the way it works.
That's a great show.
That's March.
I won't hear any more slander about it. They had a great tournament, a great run, and they made it to the Final Four. If I was allowed to swap it out, I think I would have swapped it with one you guys would have been ticked about anyways. So, because you little Avatar turds. It's a good show. Avatar's good too, but top 4 all-time shows, I don't know about that.
All right, wait a second. Wait a second. You are the biggest anime nerd of the 3 of us.
I know.
Have you watched through the entirety of Avatar? Just shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. He's shaking his head no for those who are not watching video. He did not watch it.
And it's because I think a lot of real animes are better. It flirts with
because
the anime line.
You haven't watched it.
It is a Nickelodeon
cartoon. The best thing they ever put out.
Is Hey Arnold a top 10 show of all time?
No, but I do like Hey Arnold, so be
I
careful
love Hey Arnold
where you tread.
I was like, where are you going with this? You love Hey Arnold.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Hey Arnold probably would upset a few, favored seeds in the bracket. So let's be careful.
We should put together a TV bracket.
Yeah, I think it's about time we put together a TV bracket.
I could get a bracket maker together, but the thing is, there's going to be a lot of great choices to choose from.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be a fun one to put out on the Discord. I want to hear what other people think.
The top 2, Brandon gave the top 1, thankfully, in The Office. I think number 2's got to be... I just brain farted hardcore. Parks and Rec.
Thought so.
So is Parks going to be your nomination for the last seed?
Would someone else like to nominate it?
No.
Brandon can nominate it.
No, I said I won't. I have another one I'm nominating unless you nominate it.
The outlier I have is actually South Park. I think the writing of that show deserves so much accolades, how they make fun of everyone, and it's so current. Every episode that comes out is just money comedy, and the writing is just hilarious.
Yeah, even if you don't like that style of TV show, you can't really argue against those writers are geniuses.
Yeah.
They're so good at what they do.
But there's so many times in life where something will happen and I'll think of that like short line that just makes sense. I have not watched that much South Park, but I just like I watched a video. I learned the other day that when toads poop, they poop like 30% of their body weight, and they poop like once a week or every 2 weeks. So it's like this massive turd. And I was just picturing South Park and the toad being like, hot, 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 hot. Like, and he's like giving it the biddy, and he's like, it's like 4 Keurig. Like, that episode sticks with me for stuff like that. And it's a toad pooping. So I definitely could agree with that being a nominee. But so which are you going to go, South Park or what was your other one? Parks and Rec?
I will go with Parks and Rec, because if I were to rate these, Parks and Rec would be a 1 seed in my
it's so good
ranking of 64 teams.
So much rewatchability for that one too.
I feel like there are so many good answers out there that are not going to get represented here. I also feel like the comedy genre might be like a bit overrepresented a little bit. That's just kind of where my mind's going too. I want to know what your options were, Bran. And maybe I shouldn't, because I've only got one that I'm thinking of right now.
Well, my nominee, I don't think you've watched through, so
let's hear it.
My nominee is Arrested Development.
So another comedy.
What about that ending to Arrested Development, Brand?
I'm going to be honest. It's not great, but I don't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it either.
I actually thought it was pretty funny. Is she smiling? Arrested Development, if you haven't watched it, is the dumbest, but also the wittiest TV show you will ever watch. I don't know how they combine it, but it is absolutely stupid. But then the jokes are so rapid fire and very quick-witted. I absolutely adore that show. And it's going to come off Netflix, I think, next year. So I'm a little bit down about that.
Yeah. That's one I've watched through many, many times. That's in my top tier of rewatchables.
That's so what's what I'm looking for? Influential in my life. When you guys call me, I am always referencing Arrested Development because I say, hey brother. Every time.
I hope that was in sync.
I hope so too.
It's probably way off, even though it sounded in sync tonight. But that's my nominee. But I can't argue with Trav's Parks and Rec either. But so two good options. Cody, what do you got for us?
I am upset because I still think there are so many great options that just aren't going to be mentioned. For me, like, my favorite comedy is probably New Girl. I think New Girl is just
can't go wrong with New Girl.
So fun. Like, I just love like every character. But I also think, and I still have like yet to finish it, as everybody is, because they're coming out with the last season. I also think Ted Lasso is one that a lot of people would pick.
By the time Ted Lasso's done, I think it will be a top tier show of all time.
So I think we can kind of like escape that one a little bit, just in that it's not finished yet, so we don't have to talk about it. It's just driving me crazy because I know there's some other amazing shows that I'm just not thinking of, but my mind's just saying New Girl.
Who's your favorite character on New Girl? Because
Schmidt.
I think mine changes every rewatch.
That's fair. I love Schmidt and Nick, both of them so
Nick
much.
Nick is my spirit animal. If I could be more like Nick in life, I would be happy with that.
I think everyone would be.
And his best friend, Tran.
Oh, Tran's the best. I think the first time I watched it, my favorite character was Schmidt. And then I watched it again, and it was Nick. And now I think my favorite character is Winston LaAndre Bishop. That
Winnie
guy
the
is just... Winnie the Bish. He lives life the right way. And he's just absolutely a bizarre weirdo, but lovable. So... yeah, just great, fantastic characters.
It is interesting. I feel like that's the case for most people who rewatch New Girl. Like, they go through that phase of the last time they watched through it, Winnie the Bish is their favorite character. He, like, takes some time to grow on you.
it's still like they have one more season, but I like up to this point have completely forgotten about maybe my favorite show.
This is the other one I was hoping you were gonna say.
Cobra Kai
Oh, that's not it.
is so freaking good.
I thought this was falling when whatever you hit, and it is so sharp.
Oh, like we'd be
Like,
done.
I keep picturing it falling and just like severing our spines. That would be
You might have to
terrifying.
sand that down.
It's metal.
You know, it'd be the best way to go, taken out by Michigan. But yeah, I almost ended us
That
there.
was terrifying.
No, I think Cobra Kai has something for everybody too. There's all those themes I mentioned: action, romance, betrayal. I just love it so much. And anytime I talk to somebody who's seen Cobra Kai, they're like, "You watch it too? Isn't that like the best TV show you've ever seen?" It's just these teenagers beating the crap out of each other.
Oh,
But
man.
like, it's so good. And I hadn't even watched all of the Karate Kids back in the day. Like, I'd seen the OG, but there's like 3 of them. So a group of friends and I just started watching through them. It's like, oh yeah, these are pretty good too. But we like it even more just because of Karate Kid. Because Karate Kid took it just leaps and bounds beyond the realm that it ever thought possible. So good. But again, that's still working on their final season, so we can leave that out for this one. I'm curious what you thought my option was going to be, Brand, but I'm going to take one stab and think that you were guessing Video Game High School for me.
Yes, the perfect show.
Mm.
Yeah,
It is also a web
it
series.
is a great show.
It was on Netflix. It counts.
It was?
I didn't know it was.
I didn't know that
At one point, it was on Netflix. So
What kind of seed do you think Video Game High School would get if we made a bracket? Because the thing is, it's like...
it's a
I
Cinderella.
loved it.
It's
Yeah.
probably the 16 that, like a Farley Dickinson type, that could take a 1 seed that was asleep at the wheel, like Purdue down. I have a proposition because I don't think we can pick between our nominees because they're all excellent. Why don't we leave this one up to the Discord? If you comment who your choice would be between Arrested Development, Parks and Rec, and New Girl for the final member of the final 4 TV shows.
Here's the thing, though. We got to pick a champion. I think
we,
they
though?
should...
I don't think we
have
got to pick a
to
champion
yet.
right now.
Mm,
We'll just do our final 4 for now, and then the thing I'm thinking too is
we put a bracket on
we
the
put a
Discord.
full bracket together.
Yeah, got to.
And there
Maybe this
we
will be our 1 seeds. So
This could be voted-
determine the
Yeah.
final 1 seed.
There's going to be some strong 2 seeds.
Oof.
That's for sure. Travis, I'm
Yeah.
surprised you didn't nominate Dragon Ball.
It's not an all-time great show. It is all-time nostalgic show.
Kind of a guilty pleasure, maybe.
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure for sure, but there you can poke a lot of holes in Dragon Ball.
Fair enough.
But anime-wise, I do kind of wish it would have been mentioned Attack on Titan.
That one's not for everyone.
It's not, no. But, like, the Game of Thrones crowd, I think, would really appreciate
Oh,
it.
definitely. 100%.
Not just for, like, the shock. Brandon, have you ever watched Attack on Titan?
I've seen some of it, but I wasn't able to like continue.
That's one I still think, like, Brandon, you would really like.
Mm-hmm. I think you would like it a lot.
It's difficult for me to find time to watch TV series by myself. I've been sitting on the final
Keep
episode
thinking
of
more shows.
of The Last of Us for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to watch it because I loved maybe this is a bad thing to say on a podcast. I loved the last episode. It was not the final one, but I don't want to do spoilers or anything, but
You're good. Just
I'm
like
behind.
the
There you go.
penultimate
the penultimate
was
episode,
so good.
Now let's
you can put it on. I
good.
won't say anything, Travis. You can put
No,
it
you're
on.
good. He's not spoilering. But that's
It was
in
intense.
my opinion.
That's all I'll
it's
say.
It's the best episode in the series.
I was like on the edge of my seat for most of it, and it just it did such a good job of like dropping breadcrumbs, and then it's like, yeah, it's what you thought.
Yeah.
Brandon sent a picture of his little daughter walking around with a stick at what looked like an abandoned deer farm.
It was. That's what it was. Abandoned deer
abandoned?
farm. Yeah.
And he had Last of Us playing. Like it was a good video. I liked it a lot.
Wait, I just love the caption of just like little Eden with her stick,
Ready
saying,
to kill zombies.
ready to kill zombies.
Well, she's walking towards this like front gate, and she's got her stick, and she has it above her head, and she's screaming, going, "Ah!"
So that scream was from her. I couldn't tell in the video.
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't the zombies.
I didn't know if you were putting in noise.
No, that was her. Unfortunately, Snapchat limited the video. It was actually about 45 seconds, and that was only like the first part of it. And then she did a lot more screaming, and she went right up to the gate with her stick and was like yelling, and it was really funny.
I'm very upset. I want to watch all of that.
Yeah.
I took the video. I was like, wait, this looks like post-apocalyptic. I gotta like put this out there.
One other show I think deserved recognition was Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, fantastic. I mean, what's that, like 14 seasons? You want to talk about longevity, and you just go to like season 1 or season 14 and everything in between, all bangers. That's like the perfect, do laundry or fall asleep to TV show, because there's so many of them, and it's like it's not like you have to really pay attention to where the plot's going. Doesn't matter, but it's so good.
So, question for when we build out this bracket, I had 2 thoughts. One is just straight up seeded, best 1 seeds, and it's anyone versus anyone, or each region is a type, like a broad genre, like the comedy region, the drama region, the thriller region.
That's tough.
That is tough.
Comedy definitely would almost be 2 regions.
Animated region.
Yeah, comedy would destroy
Comedy
itself.
might need 2 regions. But then you leave off somebody. I think that's what I don't know if it's doable.
Yeah, we might just go just based on seeds.
Okay.
And I'm kind of looking forward to just creating seeds anyways.
I'm kind of getting excited about this.
Yeah.
All right. We have a lot of content.
Let's just
We
ditch
gotta
all
move
the
on.
sports content and just talk about TV shows.
Move on.
That's why you guys are here anyways. That's what you're after.
Mailbag?
Mailbag. Still got to make some sort of jingle for that. But we do have a couple mailbag questions that we need to discuss. So, one of those I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on is from Jaron. He says, so Jamal kind of dissed the Lions organization. Does that make you guys feel any different? He says, I mean, I constantly diss the organization, so I kind of agree with him. What do you guys think about Jamal Williams' departure from the Lions, and specifically kind of how he handled that whole process?
I figured it all out.
Let's hear it.
So the Lions offered Jamal reportedly something better than what he got with the Saints, something closer to what Montgomery got. However, Jamal's agent shopped it around the league, seeing if his guy could get a better deal. Well, the Lions, who they are now, is not to sit around and wait and then get left with nobody. They went shopping and found a running back, a very good young running back, and offered him a deal. He took it, and Jamal ended up with the Saints. Jamal's comments about his offer being disrespectful, I don't think Jamal maybe was totally in on the whole thing, with his agent kind of being the one. I'm making his agent the villain because I just can't mentally make Jamal a villain because I loved him so much. So that's the story I'm sticking with. And I've convinced myself it's true because I'm not going to make myself not like Jamal.
I don't even think you have to put it all on his agent to avoid villain status. I think calling an offer disrespectful is a perfectly normal thing to do.
Yeah.
And with Jamal being the touchdown leader, the rushing touchdown leader last year, he was due for a pay jump. He earned it. And so it's very possible that whatever he received was disrespectful. And if you continue to read through his comments, you'll see that he says, it's still all love in Detroit. Like, I love my players, my coaching staff. Like, there's no hard feelings there. But he knows what he's worth. And he's going to go and get that, even if it's going to be a little bit lesser than anticipated with the Saints. You know, he deserves to get paid. And so it's difficult. It's a bummer. I don't know how much we've talked about this or if we've gotten the chance to talk about it on the pod. Ripped my heart out when I saw that we weren't going to have our guy. That's our dude. That little meme with Wolverine staring at the picture of Jamal with the crazy eyes and the Naruto
Mhm.
headband that's in our meme section of the Discord cracks me up and makes me shed a tear at the same time. It's just so perfect. I don't want to imagine next year without Jamal, but at the same time, I think it makes sense for both parties. So it's just kind of the way it is. I don't think he was really being disrespectful in calling the offer disrespectful. I think that's just, it is what it is. Something else maybe people might have had issue with was he was talking about he's going to a team where they already know how to win and they have veterans in place, and people might have seen that as shade thrown at Detroit. I don't know if that's where people are at or not. I didn't see it that way either. I think he was just happy that he was going to another team that wasn't going to have to be starting from the ground up. I don't think he was saying that the Lions were the flip side of that. I think he was just content with where he was landing. And of course, he wanted to share love to his new team because that's what you got to do.
Even if the Lions are the flip side of that, I don't think you take that as a bad thing, because we all know the Lions are the flip of that.
Right.
They're the lovable losers who are building something exciting, and that is also something to be proud to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these guys come to Detroit are proud to be a part of this emerging franchise, where when you talk about the Saints, they're an established franchise with some established people.
They've got people who've won the Super Bowl on that roster.
Yeah, so
they got vets.
That makes sense. I wasn't offended by that either.
I'm going to get on my soapbox.
Here we go.
What happened with Jamal is what would happen for the worker at the warehouse, at the gas station, at the service center, at Amazon, wherever in the NFL. If you can find someone to do your job for less money or to do a similar job for a similar amount of money, there is no loyalty. If you give your life at your desk, you will be replaced the next day and business keeps on moving. So it's ugly, but that's how it works. So I'm on Jamal's side. Talk your crap. You broke Barry Sanders' touchdown record, and they did not care to bring you back. That's just the nature of it, though. The Lions, you see how many other players they have signed. They are looking to sign as many players for as cheap as possible, and they're not in the business of rewarding players with money based on past performance. They're looking to pay players for future production, and they think that they can get the same amount of or more production out of David Montgomery than of Jamal Williams. Now, that's a gamble because I'm going to say you're not going to get the same culture and passion and maybe the locker room presence. I mean, not knocking David Montgomery, but I think Jamal Williams was like all pro level culture guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking a lot about Vibalytics. When you've got a all vibes team, last year, like Detroit, we kind of sensed the tides turning where people are like, I kind of like Detroit, which has never been the case. It was an all vibes team, and now we are taking away the number one vibes player on the team. So someone else has got to take up that torch, take up that mantle, or else we're in danger of losing a little bit of that edge, I think, that Lions have with their culture, with their vibes, with their locker room. I think they've got guys like that, but Jamal Williams was one of one when it came to just the passion and the love. So I understand it from both sides, but I also think it's just it's a good reflection of how people view business. It is not about valuing people. It is about he is a number. He is a little cog in the wheel of our system to make our team work. So that's just how it is.
I do think not signing him showed a lack of appreciation for Vibalytics.
Yes.
Because, yeah, David Montgomery on the field, like, probably, you think behind the Lions, if you had David Montgomery last year behind the Lions line, you think, well, he probably would have had a great year. But you don't know that. You know what Jamal did last year, but even more than that, you know what he brought to this team off the field. And everything you just said, like, Detroit became lovable, and a big part of that reason was Jamal. And I think that would have been worth an extra $1 or $2 tossed his way.
Yeah, I think it's worth it personally. And if it was me, I'm finding a way to try to keep Jamal Williams and get rid of DeAndre Swift's contract, because David Montgomery is a very similar style where he's more all-purpose. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. DeAndre Swift hasn't made it through a season healthy once. And he definitely doesn't have the same vibes or culture impact that Jamal had. Watching Hard Knocks, it's like it looked like they were just trying to get DeAndre Swift to care more.
Mm-hmm.
Watching Hard Knocks, looked like that is 0% an issue for Jamal Williams. You almost have to rein him in so he doesn't cry too much during his speeches, which is a good thing. You need that passion on your team when you have a team that has been down in the dirt for decades. So I don't like the move. I understand the move. I think David Montgomery is going to kick butt behind our offensive line. But I would have loved to see Jamal back. I think he would have been a huge piece of our team. And I hope he does well with New Orleans.
All I'm going to say is Montgomery could rush for 1,500 yards this year. And if we don't make the playoffs, it's 100% because we didn't bring Jamal back. That's all I'm going to say.
We should probably move to another mailbag because we're going to talk about a lot more Lions
for sure
at the end.
So, second mailbag question is totally hypothetical, but maybe not so hypothetical. Would you guys rather get sent to the consolation tournament or lose as the number 1 seed in the big tournament? Not sure what would have spawned that question, but would you rather be Purdue losing to Fairleigh Dickinson or just not make the tournament at all? I think it's actually a great question.
You guys know I have thoughts on this, so if you want to get in before I go off.
I think this is a little bit similar to what we've discussed in the past, where Travis would set us up with a loaded question, and Brandon would follow up with, that is a dumb question because context matters.
That's right, it does.
And it 100% matters in this case, too. I think when you consider Michigan, if Michigan enters as the 1 seed and all of a sudden they lose in a historic way, the second number 1 seed ever to lose in the first round, yes, that's catastrophic, and that would be awful. But also considering the success Michigan has had in March the past few years, I think that is preferable to not making the tournament to begin with. It just depends on the organization. So I think for Michigan, I would rather make the tournament and get upset than not make the tournament at all. But it's going to be case by case.
Trev?
I agree.
I disagree.
I knew that was coming.
Go ahead, Trev. You can actually say your piece. I won't interrupt you.
Well, I was going to keep it short and sweet because I agreed pretty much with what Cody said. But make it, especially this year for Purdue, they had a quote-unquote great year. They won the Big Ten regular season. They won the Big Ten conference tournament. And they were a number 1 seed for a long time. With that, just the hype throughout the year was very exciting. Most people didn't pick Purdue to go far in this tournament at the same time. But I would rather have this year.
There are a lot of people picking them as a Final Four team.
Well, yeah, because they're a 1 seed. But of all the analytical people like on ESPN, hardly anyone picked Purdue. Like we talked, I picked Purdue to go far because I'm an idiot.
Where'd you have them?
Final Four. Because I'm a homer and Purdue fan for life, as I've always been. But I think I'd take that over the year we had like with Michigan, where just letdown after letdown, which led to them not making the tournament. They were 1 or 2 wins away from making the tournament. So the amount of letdowns was, you're going to get that many if you don't make the tournament. It takes quite a bit to not make the tournament in the Big Ten.
But yeah, it kind of hurts more for Purdue because they are the all-time choke artists.
Yeah.
I hate to toot my own horn, but a toot. How do you toot a horn? Like,
I would pull it.
You pull it? Okay, yeah, like a train horn.
I like yours better.
A toot,
like
a toot.
Now.
Like a
toot, toot.
Like a honk honk little. Yeah,
a honk makes sense.
Like
this motion.
A toot.
Yeah,
you sound like the kid from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide.
Toot.
Man, that could make the bracket. What a great show!
Great show.
Not sure how many people would agree. A little bit of a cult following, maybe, but yeah. I did mention which are going to be your Big Ten teams that you're going to be following in this tournament, because it's not going to be Purdue. Did I know they're going to lose in the first round? No. I think Brandon even had a pick just like betting on teams to go further than Purdue. And that worked out very well for him as well. But yeah, it's got to sting a little bit more for Purdue, knowing that like we have this good team. We're expected to do well in the regular season, but what can we do in March? Matt Painter has really struggled in March, and this is just even more doubt on his ability to coach teams up to make a run in the tournament. Like, what do you do from there? You can't do much because he won the big. But man, that's disappointing as a team.
Couple comments. That bet was Kansas to go farther in the tournament than Purdue, and Kansas lost in the second round. Oh, man. Also, I saw someone on Twitter say that you should get points in your bracket for having the right idea, but not picking the right games. So, like, for instance, I faded Purdue super hard. I had them losing in the second round, but I had them losing in the second round to Memphis. And instead, Purdue doesn't make the second round. Memphis also obviously loses by 1 in controversial fashion to FAU. So I got 0 points there, but I had the right idea. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Back to the actual conversation. I am taking the mediocre season and the NIT run. The reason being is with the example of Michigan and Purdue. With Michigan this year, we can point to the things that Michigan did poorly and that they need to improve on, and we have kind of the template of what Michigan has done before to be at a high enough level to win national championships. Where Purdue, this year, they were their best version of themselves. They won the Big Ten by like 4 games. They won the Big Ten tournament. They're a 1 seed. They have the National Player of the Year. This is the ceiling for Purdue. And they lost to a 16 seed. This is as good as it gets. And what this loss shows, already a trend, but it caps off the trend that Purdue, with their current style, cannot win a national championship. They cannot be a real contender. And so, for me, every time if I'm a Purdue fan, I look up at the rafters, and they're going to have a final or a Big Ten championship banner and a Big Ten tournament banner that are going to say 2023 Big Ten champs. And you're going to look up at that and say, that's the year we lost to Farley Dickinson. And it's going to be not even bittersweet. It's going to be bitter. You look back at that and say, yeah, that was that one embarrassing year. We had a 7'4" guy, and we played the shortest team in Division I basketball, they basically averaged like 6'3" across the board, and we lost with our 7'4" National Player of the Year. If I'm a Purdue fan, I am like throwing in the towel at this point, because you basically have to say, I am fine with being very competitive in the Big Ten, but never competitive on a national stage. Purdue has the most NCAA tournament wins without a national title in all of men's hoops. This is a team without the ability to win it all, which is what it's all about, right? I look at Virginia as an analog. Virginia just lost to Furman. They have the same issue. Their style is not conducive to winning in March. And they're the other team that had lost to a 16 seed. Outside of having just an entire roster of NBA players, which is what happened when Virginia actually won the title, the system is holding them back. And I would say it's going to be hard for Purdue to take a look in the mirror and say, yeah, Painter, you're not cutting it. We have to completely adjust our system, especially after a year when you're a number 1 seed and you won your tournament and your conference regular season championship. So yes, give me the NIT, because that gives me some hope, because we know what we're going to improve on, rather than, yeah, our very best will never be good enough. I'll take the NIT all day.
2 quick things. One, Bran, you should have been a debate team member or go into politics, because even when I disagree with you right now, but I find myself just going, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Even though I disagree. But my second thing was St. Peter's really screwed over Purdue last year because that, I think, was their opportunity where they had more talent than this year. Like, Ivy was a game changer, and they had Edie still, and they had just a lot of talent on that team. So
I would say that it wasn't St. Peter's that screwed them over. It was Purdue that screwed themselves over by not beating St. Peter's.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
it was a very beatable team.
Ivy had a shot to win that, and it's March. Things happen, and it was a team that was playing hot. If Ivy's 3 would have went down, they beat St. Pete and move on. But it didn't. I mean, and that's, you don't want to be in that position to rely on an Ivy 3 as well. But I'm just saying, like, if they would have won that, maybe there's a little bit different narrative. But there's not. They didn't. And you could say that for all, like, because they just keep losing in March, and it's a sad time to be a Purdue fan. So I agree with you on that front. It's got to be rough to be their fans. I don't even know what they're looking forward to next year, but we should probably move on.
Probably more than we are.
I do have a mailbag of my own that leads into our next section, I think.
Got to put it in the Discord.
And the mailbag is, do Sweet 16s matter?
I tell you what, I think that making the second weekend of the tournament is one of the more exciting things because you are a breath away from the Final Four. The great thing about college basketball, in my opinion, is that Final Four group, it's like, well, you're technically winning your region, but it's like the Holy Grail. Like, we made the Final Four. And when you're in the Sweet 16, it is right there in front of you. The very next weekend, you're going to determine the Final Four or not. It's like winning the championship, essentially. So I get stoked about the Sweet 16. And the thing that Michigan State fans, like, yeah, obviously Michigan
How did
fans
this turn to Michigan State?
Yeah, I didn't
obviously
intend
Michigan
for that at all.
wanted our success to go beyond the Sweet 16. That's not the end goal. But the fact that before this year we made, 5 straight? Like, that is sustained bites at the apple. You are constantly contending. That is exciting. It's something we're celebrating. No, we're not hanging a banner for a Sweet 16, but it is a good benchmark to say, yeah, we're right there almost every year. So if I was a Michigan State fan, I'm definitely celebrating this because we're going to talk about it in a little bit. Michigan State has a path. And I think Izzo's got a chance to knock off some of that, maybe some grime on his reputation a little bit, because they're going to say, oh, here we are. It's March again. Izzo's doing it again. We'll see. I've got some opinions about that. I think it's looking good.
Yeah, and I think when you ask the question, does a Sweet 16 matter, the answer is going to depend on the school. Because one thing you said, Brandon, earlier
And the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what your expectations are, given your regular season, the players that you have at your disposal, your past history. One thing that you had said earlier, Brandon, that I wasn't like totally sure I was vibing with, but I get the intent, was that the point is to win it all. And for the bigger schools, that is the point. But at the same time, that's one of the wonderful things about March, is just you have so many teams that you don't really expect to win it, but it's just amazing just to see how far you go. You know, it's the same thing with, like, you know, playing at Howardsville and being in the district tournament. I had a classmate who just didn't get it. They were like, it's not like you guys are going to win state. I was like, first off, watch your mouth. Never know. We didn't even win districts when I was there. But I was like, second off, it's the beauty of just seeing how far you can go. Yeah. And you have no idea. And it's like every single game that you get is another chance to play the game that you love before that season ends. There's beauty in that. And I think that is magnified at the college level when so many of these players aren't going to be able to return. They're not going to have a pro career. You know, they're going to have desk jobs or something of that nature. And so for some of these schools, just making it to the Sweet 16, that is a fantastic achievement. That is banner worthy. And for somebody like Tom Izzo, that is a sustained staple of his success. And so I think that is something worth celebrating. But of course, they're going to want more. Of course, being a 7 seed, that's a little bit different this year. That's even more of a success, something worth celebrating, because a lot of people didn't expect that. People knew they could make a run, but now it's a question of just how far can this team really go? And that's something that's definitely worth being excited for.
Well, let's you go, Brian.
I just want to say the point of winning it all, I totally agree with what Cody is saying there, because just making like a Sweet 16, Elite 8, or in some cases the Final Four for certain schools is like the best it could almost possibly be. What I meant in the context was more like for Purdue or for like a Michigan State or Michigan, like that mountaintop option should always be there. And so for Purdue, who is in the middle of Indiana, which is the basketball like state, like basketball is a religion in Indiana. Purdue, who has always been a upper echelon Big Ten school, has never won a title. Like it should be unthinkable. And now that they are looking like really good in the conference, the fact that that title still seems even further away, to me is like an insanely depressing if I was a fan. Lucky for me, I'm not like Travis and I'm not a Boilermaker. So I don't have to worry about that because I know that my team has got that ceiling. It's achievable. But that's all I was trying to say. For a team like Fairleigh Dickinson, St. Peter's, Princeton now this year, championship is not attainable. But Sweet 16 is, Elite 8, we've seen it before. The Final Four is attainable. I don't think we've seen one of those teams make the championship, although I guess you could maybe point at Butler that one year. But we haven't seen them win it yet. So
UConn was what were
7,
they?
I think.
They were 7 seed, yeah.
Or were they? Oh, I think the 11 seed has made the championship before. I don't know if they've won.
Yeah, an 11 seed made it. I don't think they won it. Was that
But anyways,
Georgetown?
That was all I was trying to say is that
No, that wasn't Georgetown. Never mind.
you're absolutely right. Like, seeing how far you can go is magical. But for those upper tier teams, the championship should be what you're shooting for, at least once.
And for the Big Ten, only one team is left alive after all the basketball. Oof. And it's Michigan State, which is surprising. It's like that meme from, oh crap, I forget the movie, where it's guy just looking around, like no one else is there.
Oh, yeah. Pulp Fiction?
Yes, it was Pulp Fiction. Michigan State's still alive, and like Brandon said, the path is kind of nice. I mean, it's still Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four basketball. But to get to the Final Four, you're favored in this weekend's first game in the Sweet 16. You're a favorite as a 7 seed. That's pretty awesome. And then let's say you got to play Tennessee, maybe Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic, I think, looks pretty dangerous. But Tennessee is not like
Rick Barnes
juggernaut that they used to be. So it's interesting. So I don't even know if I want to waste breath talking about the rest of the Big Ten right now, because they were who we thought they were, which is chumps. The Big Ten looked horrible. Penn State gave us a good run, and they were really exciting. But everyone had to play a number 1 or number 2 seed, and if you didn't, you got beat in a bad way, like Indiana and Purdue. So disappointing, but you guys called it. That was a justified end to the year for most of the Big Ten. Now we have Michigan State, a team where some of us were calling for this team to be scary come March. I tweeted out, and Brandon also did, I think, that this team they have pieces that can make them scary in March. At the same time, they've also got pieces where I go, this is not the best Michigan State team I've seen.
They're pretty Jekyll and Hyde. Very
Jekyll and Hyde, but they are really coming alive, and some of their pieces are playing really well right now. Joey Hauser, the dude just lights out shooting right now. He must have started shooting with his brother Sam. So
I've been really impressed with Mady Sissoko. I don't know where this came from, but all of a sudden he's like elite rim protector and he's getting all the rebounds. What happened? It's like he played really good like the first 2 games. He made himself look like an elite center against Gonzaga. He took off the rest of the season, and now he returns for March. Man, Michigan
That's load
State,
management. Done perfectly.
I mean, that Marquette game, they didn't even shoot the ball well, but they played elite defense. They were not elite defensively most of the year, but man, they've looked good defensively in this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Michigan. If you could play defense, keeps you in games. Man, love what I've seen from Michigan State. Do you want to talk about Kansas State, the matchup?
Yeah.
Because I like Michigan State here.
I do too.
I don't want to slam it because I just said that Michigan State is Jekyll and Hyde, and I'm afraid that they're going to turn into a pumpkin. But I don't think they turn into a pumpkin yet because I think this is a team that they can get. Kansas State's good. I mean, the way that they closed that game against Kentucky, they just all of a sudden decided to not miss any threes, which they did the entire game before. Like, for 38 minutes, they just couldn't make a three. Then they made like 5 in a row. And it's like, oh, game over. So that's dangerous for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the matchup favors Michigan State. And with their defense, I think that they're going to be able to keep them under control. So I think that Michigan State's going to move on to the Elite Eight, and they'll have honestly a good matchup. Tennessee with Rick Barnes, he's about as much of a choking of a coach as Matt Painter is. The guy he's allergic to success in March, just like Matt Painter or Fran McCaffrey. So if it's Florida Atlantic, like they've literally never been here before. Tom Izzo's been there before. Florida Atlantic has never been in the Sweet 16. So if they beat Tennessee, they're going to get some pretty big eyes, I think, going against Michigan State in the Elite Eight. So I'm feeling really good. I'm also feeling like, man, I guess I should have just went all in. I had Michigan State in the Elite Eight in my bracket, had them losing to Duke, which I just felt that's what Michigan State does, but Duke kind of didn't show up against Tennessee. So should have went all in on the Sparties.
The difference is that defense that we hadn't been seeing. And so I like the matchup against Kansas State. You got two really like offensive-minded teams, I would say, except Kansas State can't match that level of defense. And so if we see, the one side, the not pumpkin, I don't remember which one, Jekyll and Hyde, I'm having a brain fart, the good side of it, then
we can say they'll be the princess or the pumpkin.
There we go. If we see Michigan State the princess, then and they're looking hot for an Elite Eight matchup. Because I like that against Kansas State. I'm not so quick to give them a pass against Tennessee. Tennessee was looking on point against Duke in that round of 32 matchup.
That was a big win against Duke.
That's a huge
win.
Playing
hot. Again, Duke was kind of Jekyll and Hyde all year as well, but
a little bit
big win.
But like they have some solid pieces on that team as well. Really great at cleaning up the boards. Tennessee beat them in the rebound game, hardcore, and Tennessee just played a physical brand of basketball, which is kind of Duke's thing. They out-Duke Duke. And so they were powerful, they were scary, they were strong on the boards, but also they were lights out shooting. Vescovi was scary. He was just pulling up whenever, and there was nothing Duke could do to stop it. So he's somebody that I could see giving Michigan State fits. If he's carrying on that hot streak, they're not a team I would look over the same extent that I might look over Purdue. I'm not sure I'm ready to put them in the category of Matt Painter choking. But you're right. They have had some bad marches in the past. So we'll see what happens here. But I feel like this is a different Tennessee team. I think this is a Tennessee team with eyes on the Final Four.
Well, with that, I mean, we're ahead of ourselves. But with the Tennessee look ahead, man, Rick Barnes in that situation versus Tom Izzo. Juwan Howard outcoached Rick Barnes last year. All right, we all know where we're sitting with Juwan Howard right now. I think Tom Izzo can handle Rick Barnes in that situation. Now, you did mention Vescovi. He has been lights out. The one thing I'll counter with, Michigan State has been throwing Jaden Akins at whoever they're facing is their best offensive player. And USC, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but they had a guy who I was really nervous about because I wagered too much money on Michigan State. And he was a no-show. They shut him down. Marquette obviously couldn't get much going. They had one of the best offenses in college basketball, and they scored like 60 points. Michigan State.
Boogie Ellis. I was trying to think of his name too. Yeah.
Was. I felt bad.
He was non-existent.
Yeah, he was terrible, and they're just throwing Tyson Walker and Jay Akins at these guys, they're playing fantastic defense. I feel like they're probably going to be able to contain Tennessee. I really like Michigan State's path, and I'll just say it. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a jinx here. Michigan State's going to the Final Four. Woo! Good job, Tom Izzo. You did it. You made it to the Final Four again. So can't wait to see you.
I had one of those kind of vibey spots on my bracket where I chose Michigan State to go to the Elite Eight, and then the vibey part breaks when I have them losing to Purdue.
Well, that makes sense because they haven't been facing teams with strong centers. So their matchups have really favored them, and I don't necessarily see that coming up on this. Like, I don't think that Kansas State's going to kill them in the post. I don't think Tennessee or you know what? FAU's got a big guy, but I don't know that I was super impressed with him. But
you know who's getting minutes for Michigan State is Carson Cooper.
He's been really good.
He's looking good. And I wondered at the beginning of this year, looking at Matty Sissoko and Kohler as the options at center, and I'm like, Kohler's a true freshman who I watched his tape. I'm not going to slander Michigan State guys right now. They're doing great. But I wasn't super impressed at the time. And Matty Sissoko, we all know what he's capable of. He's super athletic, but is missing some things. And then they played Cooper quite a bit in their early season exhibition game. And I wonder if this guy's going to get some minutes this year. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to be, if they do make a big run, he's been a huge part of it, giving them depth at center.
Yep.
When those other guys are struggling. So unsung hero. They've got a few of those kind of guys on this team that could propel them.
So how far do you have Michigan State going?
Elite Eight.
Elite Eight. That's where I have them going as well.
But now that's
3 for 3.
In our brackets, I have that. But now,
hold up. In your bracket?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought you were asking.
I had them losing to USC.
I take it back.
About updated predictions. No, I was fading the Big Ten hard.
I faded the Big Ten, but I had Michigan State going.
And good for you guys. Like, you were much better in your analytics of that and your Vibalytics, because Michigan State is like an offensive force. I just did not think that we were going to see them put together this level of consistency.
I don't know. Like, they're playing well too, but the path they got is pretty nice. Like,
yeah.
They should be so thankful. Like, not taken away from anything they're playing, but sometimes, like, they had a great team when they ran into Duke in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so if you get the right layout, like, you can have a magical season. You can have a magical season and get past those juggernauts too, but it's pretty nice. I hope we see them in the Final Four.
And I honestly thought, given the record, they might end up being like a 9 seed, one of those Big Ten teams that, gets one game and then you run into a 1 seed in the round of 32. So yeah, they were very fortunate for sure.
And if they make it to the Final Four, I think they will run into a juggernaut in Alabama.
Oh,
and
they are looking really good.
They are amazing. Brandon Miller hasn't even looked like stellar. Like, he scored like nothing in the first round game.
Doesn't matter.
They still look awesome. Also, Brandon Miller is crazy good.
Yeah, he's so good. We might have to talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, might have to.
We might end up talking about him come draft time.
Well, is that all we got on basketball? Do you want to move on to that? Brandon Miller's kind of a good segue right there.
Go ahead, Brandon. Yeah.
That is a good segue.
All right. So my question, this is kind of a shower thought, but there's been a lot of criminal activity lately from some pretty elite players. And criminal might be too strong a word because it might just be like morally probably bad activity, but not legally.
We'll keep it criminal. I like our criminal segments on this pod.
Yeah, you're a criminal. So my question is, how do you feel about your team drafting or like being a part of actively acquiring players who have some real shady stuff in their pretty recent past? The Pistons are probably going to be in a position to be drafting high. I'm not sure I want to call my shot like Cody, but if they were in, let's say, the top 3, let's say they were pick number 3, there's a good chance that the best available player at pick 3 would be Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, if you're not aware, was involved in a shooting where his friend was at a nightclub. He texted Miller because he had the car, and in the car was his gun. He said, "I'm having an argument. Bring my peace," basically. And he drove there, and the guy went into the back of the car, grabbed the gun, and shot someone. And that person, actually, not even the person he was aiming at, someone else died. A passenger in the car. Very sad situation. Now, technically, legally, Brandon Miller is not held liable because they can't really prove intent, I guess, which seems pretty shady because someone texted him that he's having an argument and he needs his gun. And he delivered it to him, which seems really bad to me. But yeah, the authorities are like, no, he's fine. He's just a witness. Just seems crazy. In related circumstances, actually, it was like, I think almost the same night this happened, where Georgia is celebrating their national title. And some players and staff members go out drinking. They're at the strip club. Listen to your mom when she says nothing good happens after 2 a.m. Or some people might say midnight, depending on what your curfew is. They were out late drinking in places they should not have been. And they decide, apparently, this is something I'm learning. They're at the strip club, and then they said, hey, let's go to Waffle House. So apparently you work up an appetite in there.
It's never a wrong decision.
Which part?
Waffle House.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify, Code.
So they're on the way
about?
to Waffle House, and they are racing each other there. And the one car is traveling at unsafe speeds, like 100 miles an hour, 9 miles per hour. They, take it off at some point. They knew it was going over 100 at points. They eventually lose control. They go through a power line, and a staffer for Georgia and a player for Georgia are killed in that accident. Well, it comes out like a month later that Georgia's Jalen Carter, who was being hailed as the number one player in the draft, possibly the number one overall pick, was in the other car racing them. And it's been reported, it's a little unclear because there's conflicting reports. It was reported that he left the scene of the accident and then only returned later when basically summoned and to answer questions. Really bad look. We had 2 people die, and then he is not present to either assist or, call for help, whatever. It actually, they said that there was marks on his top of his car from the lines of the power poles that came down. So he was like right behind them because when they hit the poles, they went through them and then they fell, and then the lines hit the top of his car. So my question is, some pretty bad stuff going on with these guys. However, and this is probably really telling on me, when I heard this Jalen Carter story, I'm thinking to myself, okay, he went from number 1 to possibly dropping. Do we want him on the Lions? Or in Brandon Miller's case, do we want him for the Pistons? Because he's 6'9", he can drive and shoot threes, he rebounds. I mean, he's everything you want in the NBA nowadays. Also, apparently has terrible judgment. I think you could say the same for Jalen Carter, who not only was involved in this recent situation with the driving, but had a pro day workout where he previously was at the combine, and then not like 2 weeks later for his pro day is 9 pounds heavier and can't finish his workout because he was too gassed. Apparently, one reporter said at the end he took off his shirt because he was so hot, and it was not impressive, and he should have left his shirt on. Which he had been hailed as a physical freak, a specimen, and in just a few weeks' time is seemingly undoing a lot of that. So there's some real question marks. I don't sit here having any answers. I only have questions. Where do we stand on this? And maybe there's other examples you could give. It doesn't have to be Brandon Miller or Jalen Carter. But at the same time, in the business of the NFL or the NBA, with that much talent, an interior defensive tackle could be, you look at the Rams with Aaron Donald, like those are game wreckers who can be the difference between a Super Bowl and just a playoff appearance.
Yeah, and you look at the flip side of that, and you think like Nick Fairley, somebody that the Lions had in recent years, who was a freak, but just the mental wasn't there. Yeah. And so I wish I could just take a hard stance and say, like, we do not want criminals here, and we don't. But you do have to have the conversation a little bit of like maybe what the crime was, and also kind of where they're at currently. And Carter is somebody that like he's slipping big time mentally and in those mock drafts. I have no idea where he's going to end up. I think he's going to be pretty far down. Lots of potential, but I don't know if we're going to see his full potential. I have no idea where his head's at, but it doesn't sound like he's really handling this whole process too well. Shouldn't have even showed up to Pro Day. And I'm just going to say I don't want him, because I think I wanted him at first. And now what we're seeing in his response to this is that he hasn't been able to handle it well. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to put in the effort. And regardless of the amount of talent that you have, you still have to show up. You have to put in the effort. You have to grind. And this team in Detroit, this Lions team, is a team of grinders. We're kneecap biters. That is so anti, like somebody like Jalen Carter is going to be so anti the culture that we're trying to build here. That is such a vibe-alytic shift. Shipping out Jamal Williams and bringing in Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is rolling in his proverbial grave, or not Jalen Carter. Jamal Williams is rolling in his proverbial grave, having somebody like Jalen Carter potentially on the team if he was there, because that's going to be so hard to get somebody like that to buy in to this mentality of team first and put 110% in. That's what I'm seeing from Jalen Carter. So having as high a pick as the Lions do, I think you're going to be actually reaching back a little bit if you're going to get Jalen Carter. I've been seeing people say that he might go as low as 18, potentially even lower.
There's the question for you. If he's there at 18, you take him at 18. Because the Lions have the 18th pick.
Right. It's a different conversation. Slightly. That's why I mentioned it's different when you think of like your first pick and then you have another pick.
Because he could be a top 5 talent.
You might be able to take a swing there.
He could be a top 1 talent.
He really could.
At 18, I agreed with everything you said, but then talking about if he's available at 18, I'm like, might be.
That's when you have a different conversation.
But there's the conversation. You go, Brian.
Oh, I was going to say, I said this to Brandon Miller, also with Jalen Carter, not being, no legal action against them. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a judgment / like moral issues. So they are not in trouble with the law.
But I still see that as major character flaws.
Yes.
Even if it's not fair, I don't know every detail of like the Brandon Miller story. I look on that even. I'm not going to defend Brandon Miller. We're going to stay out of those weeds. I'm saying like with Brandon Miller, there's things we don't know still. With Jalen Carter, he straight up just dipped, and that doesn't look good. That's not the type of person I want as a teammate. But yeah, neither of the optics on those different cases look great.
The Jalen Carter one is hard because his lawyer is saying like, yeah, he was there, he didn't leave, but the police report was saying he did. At the same time, I'm not apt to believe lawyers or police. So I don't know what happened really, but that's like the general gist of kind of what is being reported. And I mean, the police didn't announce that he was present at all, like with this actions until like a month later. The whole thing was weird. To be fair, I guess I did say Jalen Carter was arrested, but then like he's just going to do community service. So they were not holding it against him that he would leave the scene. They were only giving him the misdemeanor for racing.
There's an argument when you're outside of sports. Often it's questioned, can you separate the art from the artist when artists do bad things? And I'm someone who often can, especially musically. Like when it's music, that's easy to separate because often you're not seeing the person. Maybe there's a visual aspect, and that art, it's not affecting the art, which doesn't make them a good person. And there are people you probably shouldn't support when they're just horrible, horrible people. So I do think, like Cody said, it kind of depends on what the crime is and the level of what happened. In these cases, I also think because there wasn't technically crime, you also got to look at the impact it's had on like their character and their play. For Jalen Carter, it seems like this was a big character impact, and I'd be less inclined to draft him. With Brandon Miller, I'm not sure, and that's one where there's enough gray in there, and his teammates and the way people around him talk about him. Not defending delivering a murder weapon in the slightest, but at the time, again, he didn't know it was going to be a murder weapon, most likely. I mean, again, it's hard to talk about because I don't know what he knew and what he didn't, but based off of what we know, the guy asked him to give him his gun. They were both legal gun owners with carry licenses and everything, and he asked him to bring him his gun. It's not like he said, "Hey, bring me my gun. I'm going to murder this person."
Just said I'm having it. No, someone needs me to have this gun because
I mean, it could have been maybe like an intimidation tactic.
It could have been, or it could have been self-defense. Like,
yeah, well, intimidation tactic is also illegal, but
he's in a situation where he feels unsafe and he needed his gun. I don't know, but again, don't want to get into that. But with Brandon Miller, depending on how it plays out with like interviews with his team and his coaches and him. If it seems like he's able to continue and it won't affect him as an investment for the Pistons, because the investment part is a big part. You're drafting these guys super high. You're hoping to get 4, 5, 6 years out of them. If you can get that without incident, I think it's worth it. I was just thinking about there's so many great athletes who had bad incidents and then they just get like pushed under the rug. And I'm not defending that at all. I think that's horrible. But like even Kobe Bryant, which feels like we shouldn't even talk about it because, he changed his number and came back from a bad incident and it's like it never happened.
Number 8 was the villain.
Yeah, number 8 was the villain. Number 24 was the hero.
An incredible work ethic and an unstoppable turnaround.
But again, I don't want to draft like a Deshaun Watson where you draft somebody and you can't cheer for him. I can't imagine what it's like to be a Cleveland Browns fan. One, in itself, that would just suck. But two, I wouldn't want to cheer for Deshaun Watson as my franchise quarterback. I should bring up another moral question to you guys. I have a keeper league, and I have Deshaun Watson in my keeper league. Is that morally okay? Or should I trade him or cut him?
I've seen your roster. I don't think you're able to be asking these questions right now.
I know, I can't.
Ouch.
It's one of the worst fantasy football rosters I've ever seen, too. It's bad. And it's a keeper league, so I'm just trying to build.
You really are the Browns.
Yeah, you're
asking the same questions.
You can hang on to him. So a lot of my strategy for fantasy sometimes is to draft players I don't like because I often am really upset like if Aaron Rodgers plays really well, but if he's on my fantasy team, it lessens the blow. So it's kind of an emotional hedge there where you don't have to be happy if he does great, but you also like it doesn't hurt you that as much. One small defense, like I said, I don't have an answer. Like Cody kind of gave some definitive like take there. I'm not quite there yet on either one. Like Travis said, I kind of want to know all the details, which I'm sure the franchises would get to the bottom of. But just one defense of Jalen Carter with what's going on. I mean, he was arrested. He did have to like go through that process of, getting like bailed out and everything. And just all of this situation, I imagine, would probably be an incredibly stressful, probably one of the hardest things he's ever had to deal with. And he put on some weight, which, yes, bad judgment. He should have been more focused. But I'm not an elite athlete. I have had weekends where maybe I went on a pizza bender a little bit, and I could gain 10 pounds at the weekends. Like, no joke. The thing about our bodies is, though, that they do have the ability to bounce back. I bet Jalen Carter could get right about back to where he was at with 1 or 2 weeks of back to the grind, back to working out.
He might be back now.
The tape doesn't lie. Like, when he is playing, the dude is an absolute monster. So my lean right now is like, man, I might want to take him at 6, but at the same time, I don't know all the details to really make that decision. And I'm understanding if they're like totally want to take him off the board or pass on him.
Would you for sure take him at 18 then?
Probably. I think it's worth the gamble there. Yeah.
Here's the things I don't like. I don't like that he drove away, like left the scene allegedly.
Allegedly.
I don't like that. And then having 2 incidents like that, one kind of criminal, which I mean he wasn't the one in the accident or crashed, but being in that scene, I don't like that. And then coupled with another thing of a poor performance in their pro day, that's a bad look. Those are the things I don't like. The things I do like so far is that he wasn't the driver, thankfully, of the crashed vehicle. He was there. That sucks. But, and he's not serving jail time. Like the crime itself, morally, I'm not arguing the morality of leaving and what he did. That was wrong. But criminally, we've lived through this ambiguity of how bad is the crime, being fans of some of the teams we cheer for. Mozzie Smith with a gun, and he didn't have a license for it in time. And do we want Mozzie Smith on the team? Because he broke the law as a character flaw. And obviously at that point, we all wanted Mozzie Smith on the team. The team loved him. He was a hardworking player. And the crime, you got to look at the crimes. And if you really look at the crime that he committed, it was speeding, driving recklessly. And I think all 3 of us have driven recklessly. However, I don't think we've all left the scene of a crime, if that happened. I mean, I think I've opened my door and dinged a car in a parking lot before. Probably may have left 20 years ago. Statute of limitations is over.
All right, everyone has immunity. You can say whatever bad things you've done.
But I burned a building once.
I did burn a tree down once. It was an accident.
I do have definitive answers for you, Trav, starting with Deshaun Watson. So I wanted to see real quick, you change your number, embrace a new city or a new person. He didn't even change his number. He's still number 4. So
he's kept that he's innocent the whole time, which, man, I know.
He kind of has, but he also has been like, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, he said sorry, and he's also paid a lot of these women.
Yeah.
So basically, Trav, you're a scoundrel. Just know that.
Man. When it hate me compared to the Browns, I really am. I'm running a franchise, and I have him as my backup because Goff is my starter. Well, it's a 2-quarterback league, so he does.
You just need to make sure that you use your number 1 overall pick on a quarterback every single year and burn their careers into the ground. As
anyone that joins my team is burned into the ground. It's so bad.
As for Jalen Carter, I think I'm out on him on number 6. It's also going to depend on what the board looks like. There's going to be some major questions on how that is going to play out. We could see as many as 4 quarterbacks off the board before the Lions pick at 6, which makes things very interesting.
Yeah.
If not, things could get a little bit desperate for what that pick is going to look like, because having the 6th overall pick, you want to pick extreme talent. I think if you get to 18 and he's still there, that's a very different question. I think I'm okay with taking that pick.
It's a position of
but
need.
6 is it's a position of need. And so yeah, if there weren't any character issues, it's a home run. But that's not necessarily the case that we're dealing with. So I think it's going to be like, we'll have a different idea when we get to that day. And hopefully we see something just through interviews with him or just him putting in more work in the meantime that show that he's able to get back to that level. But it's going to depend on what we see. As far as Brandon Miller goes, I don't think we've necessarily seen it impact him the way that we've seen this clearly impact Jalen Carter, or maybe Brandon is right and it's just a pizza binge and he's just been living that championship lifestyle. Who knows? But
Well-
Brandon Miller doesn't matter because we're getting Wemby. So that's a question that we don't really need to answer. That's kind of my stance on that.
On Brandon Miller too, Brandon Jones's favorite coach, Nate Oates, has defended Brandon Miller.
That's what I was going to say.
So-
That's what I was going to say. That's the one thing that we can actually take from this is Nate Oates to Michigan 2024. That's the only thing we can say. Yeah, would you hire he's not a criminal, but this is in the same
wrong
vein.
Place, wrong
would
time.
you take Nate Oates, Brand?
Yeah, he's going to be a national champion coach this year, Brad.
Zero accountability.
So I don't want
but a
to.
heck of a schematic mind.
Dude, he knows how to coach. I don't want to make you guys dislike any players on the Lions right now, but just to add another context log to the fire. One of our rookies last year who was so productive, so fun to watch, James Houston. We drafted him while he was in college. The reason he went to, I believe, what school did he end up out? We took him out of Jackson State, right?
Jackson State,
yeah.
Yep.
He ended up there because he had to leave Florida because he got kicked out for credit card fraud. I mean, we kind of forget these storylines, down.
So
the,
he's
the
Robin
line.
Hood. Sue him. He's just trying
it
to.
It was for himself, dude. He was not giving it to the poor.
He's probably just going buying crap.
I'm at just screwing over the rich.
Look, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to compare crimes. So
Did he change his number?
I don't know. the point is,
I don't know.
he exercised poor judgment, and we were able to enjoy his skills this year. I mean, he was a steal. We got him in the 6th or 7th round or 5th round. I don't know where we got him, but it was late. And he had 6 games in a row where he got a sack pretty much, which is amazing. I mean, that does not happen.
He wasn't putting in starter time either. Every time he was on the field, he was getting a sack.
James Houston, he's finally coming in on 3rd down. Oh, he sacked him. I'm super glad we have James Houston. Obviously, credit card fraud is not physically, no one was coming to harm. It's more financial. White collar crime isn't as big of a deal. So just kind of throwing that out there. We do cheer for players that have
on YouTube. Spotify's a little more lenient, but we might get our pod pulled now.
We're just kidding, YouTube, Siri.
That was just a shot at society. That's all I'm trying to say.
Can't do that either on YouTube.
YouTube sucks.
I don't want.
You can't say that either.
I don't want to even be there if that's what this
Bow
is.
down, YouTube. I love you, YouTube. My point is, we cheer for these guys.
That's gonna fly all days this week now.
If that's all we got to do, I'll bow down to our YouTube overlords.
Nah, give me the AI. All right, that's all I wanted to say. It was we cheer for some guys that made some bad choices in the past, and we forgave them, and they're really key players of our team.
These
are
not
college taking them with the 6th overall pick. That's
that's huge.
There.
I know.
That's huge.
I acknowledge that.
These are college kids too. You make mistakes. Cody and I were up late last night talking about the mistakes we made through college and just goofy things. None of it was to this extent.
All the crimes we've committed. Not quite.
Yeah, but you're a college kid, and we didn't see this level of success when we were in college either. These guys are the most successful college kids in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The temptations have got to be just bonkers for them. So, and they're not going to get better as you're a pro making millions, but just knowing that you can grow from this, and it might be they're getting some of the errors out of their way that they can learn from them. Hopefully,
we can fix them.
Better adults. Yeah, in Detroit.
Yes.
Oh man, do we have
a
any
good segment?
Else? Yeah. I love our segment when you are a criminal.
It's a little bit actually underwhelming because we can't say that definitively about Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter's a criminal. He was racing. I mean, yeah, that's not great. None of it's great.
I mean, let's be honest. If you or I delivered a murder weapon, We're not getting off the hook. We're not 6'9" basketball stars. Brandon Miller, you're a criminal. But you're really good.
So would
at
you take him
basketball.
or wouldn't you?
At 3?
At 3.
I might. I'm not saying yes. I got to think about it, though.
Oh, that's
Fair
the
enough.
perfect ending.
Fair enough.
That
That's all.
caps this.
That's all I could ask for.
I might.
Thank you.
Anything else? Or we?
No. Deuces, Mother Gooses. Catch you guys on the next one, and can't wait to see your picks for the TV show Bracket Challenge.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to be a heck of a time. So thanks as always, for your participation, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Ohio sucks.